Why Trump wants Greenland? Trump has said Denmark would be committing a very unfriendly act if it did not allow the US to take over Greenland. What's behind the US president's increasingly aggressive bid for a snow covered island? In his first remarks on Greenland after taking office, US President Donald Trump Saturday said he was sure America was going to have it. He also said Denmark would be committing a very unfriendly act if it decided to not let that happen. Trump said he wanted Greenland for the protection of free world. Greenland was once a Danish colony and is now an autonomous province of Denmark. He has also emerged that Trump's conversation with Denmark's Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen on the issue earlier in January turned very cold. Frederiksen's office had then said she reiterated to Trump that Greenland was not for sale and that it was up to the Greenlanders to decide their future. However, several European social media organizations have reported that Trump had used threats during the conversation, including imposing tariffs on Danish goods coming into the US. On Saturday, the Financial Times, quoting sources, said Trump was aggressive and confrontational during the 45-minute conversation. Greenland is the world's largest but sparsely populated island, abundant in natural resources, particularly minerals critical to many future technologies, and located too strategically near the emerging shipping lanes around the Arctic. It had been landing in inconspicuous existence till Trump brought it under global spotlight shortly after his election last year, saying he would like to make it a part of America by force if necessary. Buying or annexing a foreign territory by force might seem like an idea totally out of place in a 21st century world, but Trump is not exactly a conventional leader. Besides, the Greenland offer has a history that goes beyond Trump's earlier offers. This is not the first time that Trump has expressed his desire for Greenland. He has done so in his first term as well. In 2019, he had cancelled a scheduled visit to Denmark apparently because Frederiksen, who was the Prime Minister of Denmark then too, had turned down his offer to buy Greenland, calling it absurd. Trump was well into the third year of his presidency at that time, and within a few months, the COVID 19 pandemic has pushed everything else to the back burner. This time, Trump began early, even before taking office. Within days of his public statement, his son Donald Trump Jr. made a visit to Greenland earlier this month, ostensibly to a leisure trip. In his latest remarks on the issue of Saturday, Trump said he knew the people of Greenland were in favor of joining America. I don't know what claim Denmark has to the island, but it would be engaging in a very unfriendly act if they didn't allow that to happen. Let America take Greenland, he instead, insisting that he wanted the island not for America but for the free world. He really has to do it really has to do with the freedom of the world. It has nothing to do with the United States. Other than that, we are the one that can provide the freedom. They can't. US wanted in 1940s also. American interest in Greenland goes much longer back in history. Way back in 1946, American officials put forward a proposal to buy Greenland from Denmark. That offer, following a 1941 agreement between the United States and Denmark over the defense of Greenland, which allows US troops to be based on Greenland for the first time. At that time, German forces had already taken over Denmark, and there was a threat of Greenland being attacked as well. Denmark had rejected the 1946 offer. While we owe much to America, I do not feel that we owe them the whole of island of Greenland. The then Danish Foreign Minister Gustav Rasmussen, to whom the offer had been made, had said, Denmark, however, did allow the US much greater access to Greenland through several subsequent agreements. The US thus is not complete outsider to Greenland. It has stakes and interest in Greenland as well as the wider Arctic region. The 1946 offer was based on security considerations. The United States had entered Greenland in 1941 to counter potential German aggression. After the Second World War, however, it wanted control of Greenland to neutralize Soviet Union influence in the Arctic region. It had mentioned the emergence of modern weapons to push for its case in 1946 proposal. Through subsequent agreements, the US did not just set up military bases, including the Pitofik space base, earlier the Thule Air Base, but also built a nuclear reactor and a facility to dispose of nuclear waste. The competition with the Soviet Union and its successor state Russia is no longer that keen. The renewed attempt to acquire Greenland under Trump is now being seen as promoted by the desire to counter the rising influence of China in the region. Greenland is mineral rich, having large deposits of traditional resources like gold, nickel, cobalt, but also some of the biggest reserves of rare earth minerals like dysprosium, praseodymium, and neodymium and terbium. Of the 34 classified rare earth minerals, Greenland has about 23. It is these that have been brought the island a lot of attention, along with several prospecting mineral mining companies. Rare earth minerals have suddenly gained prominence because of their use in critical emerging technologies in the renewable energy sector, new military applications, and consumer electronics. Outside of Greenland, these critical minerals are heavily concentrated in China, which controls the bulk of global production and supply. Crucially, China too has entered Greenland in a big way. Chinese companies are very actively involved in prospecting, mining, and processing these mineral resources. Chinese companies now account for 11% of the investments in the mineral sector in the Greenland, just behind Australia and the United States. Data from the island's mineral department shows. The Chinese presence is not limited to the mineral sector in Greenland. It has also been involved in the creation of new infrastructure in the Greenland aimed at facilitating greater usage of Arctic sea routes. In 2018, it released a white paper on its Arctic policy in which it unveiled plans of creating Polar Silk Road, an extension of its Belt and Road initiative in Asia and Europe. The United States, with its defense assets in Greenland, is of course unnerved by these developments and even tried to dissuade Denmark from allowing too many Chinese companies in the island. Trump acknowledged the Chinese incursions in the area in his remarks on Saturday. Right now, you have Russian ships, you have Chinese ships, and you have ships from various countries. It is not good situation, he said. Why is Jammu and Kashmir? Why Jammu and Kashmir is issuing Aadhaar to each chinar tree? The Jammu and Kashmir government has launched an initiative for the conservation of region's chinar trees, which have been dwindling in over the years. The initiative involves conducting a census of chinar trees and assigning each one of them a tree Aadhaar number. Chinar is also known as Oriental plant, is a maple-like leaf maple-like tree with a huge canopy. It is found in a cool climate regions with sufficient water. It takes 30 to 50 years for the chinar tree to mature and 150 years for it to reach its full size. The tree can grow up to a height of 30 meters while its girth ranges between 10 to 15 meters. How did the tree get its name? The name Chinar was given to the tree by Mughals. Some suggest it was a Mughal emperor Jahangir who coined the name. It is said that the term Chinar came into use after someone witnessed crimson red chinar tree leaves from a distance during the autumn season and shouted Chinar Ast, a Persian phrase meaning what flame is that? Chinar trees called Buin in Kashmiri are a major tourist attraction in Kashmir Valley during the autumn season when their green red leaves slowly change into crimson red and gold. They also find a special place in the art, literature, and craft of Kashmir. Local papier mache and embroidery work, hand woven carpets, and walnut wooden carvings often feature Chinar motifs. What is the Chinar Conservation Project? To cut a chinar tree, the tree government's nod is needed even if the tree is on someone private property. However, often the trees are cut anyway. The new project aims to make sure the government can track the status of each tree. Thus, the new initiative involves conducting a census of chinar trees across the Kashmir Valley and the Chenab region. As part of the process, the government has not only enumerated chinar trees, but also given a unique identity called tree Aadhaar to each chinar tree. The census has been done district wise, each tree has been geotagged. According to Dr. Syed Tariq, the coordinator of the project, 28,000 chinar trees have been enumerated and GI tagged so far. We think the total number of chinar trees in Jammu and Kashmir is somewhere between 32,000 and 33,000. Of these, we have tagged 28,000 trees. What is US birthright citizenship, how it has evolved, and what is the new law in India? A federal judge last week temporarily blocked US President Donald Trump's executive order aimed at curtailing the right to birthright citizenship in the United States. The development came while the Seattle based US District Judge John Conner was hearing a suit filed by four Democratic states, Washington, Arizona, Illinois, and Oregon, which had sought to block the order before it could take effect in late February. The states argued that the order was blatantly violation of Constitution's 14th Amendment, which guarantees citizenship to all children born on US soil subject to the jurisdiction thereof. In 1776, when the US gained independence, citizenship was largely governed by the laws of individual states. However, was a common understanding that citizenship could be extended to all born within US territory. The original US Constitution, ratified in 1788, recognized the concept of natural born citizens in Article 2. Although this term was not defined, the Constitution framers likely meant it to include both jus soli for persons born within the country and jus sanguinis for persons born outside the country to American fathers, according to Thomas H. Lee, professor at Fordham Law School. However, this right was not available equally to everyone. In Dred Scott versus Stanford, 1857, the US Supreme Court ruled that slaves brought to the US and their descendants could not be considered citizens. The Dred Scott decision was rectified in 1866 when Congress passed the 14th Amendment to the Constitution after the American Civil War ended. The amendment said all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. However, the amendment did not end the debate on birthright citizenship, as the phrase subject to the jurisdiction of the US led to some uncertainty. The Supreme Court of the United States stepped in to address this in the United States versus Wong Kim 1898. Interpretations of the 14th Amendment. The case involved Wong Kim Ark, who was born in the US to Chinese parents and visited China on occasion. However, upon his return from one of his visits in 1890, he was denied entry under the Chinese Exclusion Act 1882, which prohibited Chinese immigration into the US. In its ruling, Supreme Court of the United States held that laws passed by Congress such as Chinese Exclusion Act cannot exclude Chinese persons born in this country from the operation of the broad and clear words of the Constitution. The court also said, regardless of the citizenship status of Wong's parents, he was subject to the jurisdiction of the US and qualified for citizenship as a child born in the country. The court concluded the American citizenship which Wong Kim Ark acquired by birth within the United States has not been lost or taken away by anything happening since his birth. This verdict has remained the law of the land in the US ever since and will likely act as the biggest obstacle for Trump in his efforts to bring birthright citizenship. The verdict has also been reaffirmed by the Supreme Court of the United States in the future decisions. For instance, in Plyler versus Doe, the court affirmed citizenship rights for children of undocumented immigrants, ruling that they have right to education. It said that according to 14th Amendment there no plausible distinction between immigrants who entered lawfully and those who entered unlawfully, as both were subject to civil and criminal laws of the state they resided in. One of the main challenges that the framers of the Indian Constitution faced was deciding whether citizenship should be based on birth or descent. Some members of the Constituent Assembly, such as P. Deshmukh, INC, argued against birthright citizenship, stating it would make Indian citizenship the cheapest on earth. However, other members such as B.R. Ambedkar, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel favored birthright citizenship, and it was ultimately recognized in the constitution. Article 5 of the Constitution states that every person who was born in the territory before the commencement of the Constitution shall be a citizen of India. Subsequently, Parliament enacted Citizenship Act 1955, which provided for birthright citizenship under Section 3 to every person born in India or after on January 26, 1950. There was an exception only for children born to an envoy of a foreign sovereign power who is not a citizen, and children of an enemy alien when the birth takes place in an area under enemy occupation. However, in 1986, Parliament amended the Act to address the entry of migrants from Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and some African countries. All children born after the amendment came into force would only become citizens if either of the parents were Indian citizens, marking the end of birthright citizenship in India. In 2003, the Act was amended again to effectively state that a child would not become a citizen at birth if only one of her parents was an would not become a citizen at birth if one of her parents was an illegal immigrant when she was born. Para, paraquat. Paraquat, also known as paraquat chloride or methyl viologen, is the most commonly used herbicide in the world. It is primarily used to control the growth of weeds and desiccate crops like cotton before harvest. Paraquat's sale is banned or regulated in many countries. In India, paraquat's use is governed by Central Insecticides Board and Registration Committee under the Ministry of Agriculture and Welfare, Farmers Welfare. So that's all. See you in the next one.